What is up, everyone? Brandon Ferst, aka First Report, representing the First Off the Bench podcast network. Everyone comes off the bench. We are first. Welcome into another edition of the Changeup, our 50th Changeup episode with my co-host, as always, Bryanna Winner. You can find Bryanna at bwinner12. Bryanna, how are you doing today?
I don't want to go back to bed, but I'm excited for playoffs to be coming. We're in the last week of the regular season. I think we both have a lot to say about our teams. So it's going to be an interesting podcast. I'm just going to mute because I have a feeling you're going to vent again.
You know, honestly, no, I'm kind of at that point. I've realized for the Padres, as much of a disaster as this year has been, if you're a Padre fan for pre-2018, this is still a top 5 successful season in my lifelong career as a Padre fan. As sad as that is, it's been a lot of fun. It's been very frustrating, especially the last few weeks. But overall, it's, we'll get to it later, but I had my venting over the last few weeks. This Padre report will be more, it's not going to be all great, but it's not going to be hide the children category. So the children can listen to this podcast, at least for my portion. I'm not sure. I'm sure Bryanna always keeps it PG, so I think we're going to be just fine there as well.
I try to.
Yes, try to. Exactly. We both try to. It happens. But anyways, we got a lot to get to, as Bryanna, of course, alluded to. This is the final week. Most teams either have 5 or 6 games remaining, and we just have a little bit of house cleaning when it comes to the playoff picture. That's where we're going to start this podcast. We have some divisions that still need to be figured out, although most of them are very close, or at least the AL West and the NL East are very close to being wrapped up. Houston or Seattle. So if Houston wins or Seattle loses at any time from this point, being Wednesday to Sunday, then the Astros will win the West. In terms of the NL East, the Braves and Phillies are going at it this week. The Braves finish off a sweep, then they will get the job done, and they will be the NL East leader or champions. However, the NL West still up in the air. The Dodgers and Giants, the Giants currently hold a 2-game lead over the Dodgers. Ironically enough, the Padres are going to have a big say in who wins this division, as right now they are playing the Dodgers, and then they'll finish up with the Giants this weekend. But the big race, or the race that kind of has everyone wondering who will get in, is the American League wild card. Both wild card spots are up for grabs. There is a crazy scenario, and it's very, very unlikely, because it would mean that the Orioles would have to win 4 of the last 6 this week. But if that does happen, and it's against certain teams, there's a possibility we could see a 5-way tie for the American League wildcard. Now, once again, this is a massive long shot. There have to be a lot of crazy things that happen. But when it comes to the American League wildcard, it stands like this. You have the New York Yankees with a +2 game advantage on the Boston Red Sox. So at the moment, the Yankees would host the Red Sox in that wild card game. However, the Red Sox only have a half-game lead on those pesky Seattle Mariners, who refuse to go away. And the Toronto Blue Jays, they only have a 1-game lead on Toronto. Oakland hanging on by a thread. They are 3.5 games back. But 5 teams battling it out for 2 playoff spots in the American League wild card. Bryanna, what are your thoughts on the American League wild card? And do you believe, I don't know if you want to go out on a limb and say that Seattle can win the West, or the Phillies can win the East, or even the Dodgers can win the the West. But what are your thoughts on those playoff races that are technically still up in the air?
If you look at the Mariners' remaining schedule, it's literally the last game with the A's and then the Angels. So let me look at Boston, just because now I need to know. Boston's got Orioles and then the Nationals. So theirs isn't bad either. So it's really just going to depend on who wants it more. But the Yankees have the Blue Jays and the Rays still to finish. So there's a chance they could just drop out of it completely. And it could be a Boston, Seattle wild card.
Definitely. And we did see last night, I think the Yankees, I think it was 8-2 last time I saw, or 6-2, something like that. But they took care of the Blue Jays. At the moment, according to Fangraphs, it is 92% that the Yankees will win one of the wild cards, I should say. The Red Sox sit at 74%, Blue Jays at 18%, and the Mariners, once again, still there at 14%. The Athletics, ironically enough, according to Fangraphs, have given them a big goose egg in terms of what they believe will, if they will make the playoffs. So obviously, like I said, the National League East, we're probably a couple days away from being wrapped up. American League West, the Astros in the next, probably tonight, will clinch that up. But keep your eye on that American League wild card. And look, the NL West still up in the air somewhat, although San Francisco has a dominant 2-game lead with only 5 to go. And the positive for them is they end the season with arguably one of the worst playing teams in baseball right now, the San Diego Padres. But the reason we didn't bring up the National League wild card, well, because the St. Louis Cardinals have decided that, you know what? They want that spot, and for the last 17 games, they've proven they deserve it. They have won their 17th straight game. They beat Milwaukee again last night. They clinch the wild card just 3 weeks ago. They had a 2% chance to make the playoffs. Now they have clinched a wild card with 5 games to go. My question for you, Bryanna, is 17 games in a row, and, hey, if they keep winning out, fantastic, but I don't think it's something that they really care about now. They've made the playoffs. It's great. They can't improve their position. Is this team a true threat to beat the Dodgers in a 1-game playoff? What are your thoughts, Bryanna?
Yes. I mean, just look at who they have at the end of the season. They still have to finish their series with the Brewers, and then they had the Cubs. Honestly, I was hoping maybe Milwaukee didn't clinch the division yet, and it could have been flipped, which would have been funny to watch because Milwaukee had the season pretty much wrapped up for weeks, and then the Cardinals just come out of nowhere. Look, this team was on our down list, like 5 times this year. They were on some mad losing streaks. They were in 4th for a few weeks, and now look at where they are. I mean, kudos to the Cardinals. I kind of want to see this keep going.
Yeah, I think I know Padre fans are, once they get over the fact that the Padres really kind of pooped the bed over the last 2 months, once they get over that, they look at the Cardinals and go, you know what? Out of the other teams that were fighting for it, the Reds and the Mets, I don't think anybody had a ton of confidence in those 2 teams beating the Dodgers in a 1-game playoff, but nobody's playing anywhere near as good baseball as the Cardinals. And a big part of this as well is we're 5 days away, 6 days away from the season ending. The Cardinals can now set their rotation to have pretty much, Flaherty, Wainwright, and possibly I think Kim's on there too, to possibly have a situation where those 3 guys are all ready to run on that wild card game. Obviously, the game will be in Los Angeles, but they have an opportunity right now to set up their pitching for that 1-game playoff. I think that is a huge, huge advantage that they have. Conversely, you look at the American League wild card where you got 5 teams fighting for 2 spots. You can't really set your pitching staff up for that 1 game. You got to get into that 1 game with your best pitchers. So for the Cardinals, I think it's a huge, and same thing with the Dodgers. Obviously, the Dodgers and Giants, they know they're in the playoffs, but they're going to be throwing their best pitchers because this division race probably going down to the last day. They won't necessarily be able to set their starting pitching up. However, they have a ton of it. I don't think it'll be that big of a deal, but I can't wait for this 1-game playoff that we expect to be the Dodgers and the Cardinals. Now, no, I'll get to it later. I wanted to bring the Padres into it, but I'm not going to do that. Bryanna, what you got for us?
So looking at Dodger and Giant schedules, obviously both teams have to play the Padres still, but the Dodgers also have the Brewers.
Yeah.
So you think the Dodgers are going to overtake the Giants, or you think the Giants are going to stay where they are?
I think the Giants stay where they are for 2 reasons. Mainly, look, the Brandon Belt injury, him fractured thumb, probably best case scenario will not be back until the World Series. Of course, if they advance that far, but he's out a month. So not ideal there. But I think for the Giants, they have obviously a very easy end to the season. The Padres players, at least majority of them, have already booked a tee time for that Monday or Tuesday. They're already in off-season mode. If you watched that Padre game last night, Walker Buehler, fantastic pitcher, just dominated the Padres again. But the fielding, they just look disinterested. You know, it's kind of one of those things where it's almost like you go back to Little League and you could tell there are certain kids who are only there because their parents want them to be there, which is fine, whatever, get the kids out, play, blah, blah, blah. But I just don't think the Padres care. And by the time they get up to San Francisco, I think they're going to look in the mirror and go, look, if we could make life a little easier on the Giants in terms of winning the division, I think they'd prefer that rather than have the Dodgers get in. And a big part of it as well is the talent the Giants still have. I mean, they're still a really good baseball team. So I expect the Giants to wrap it up. It may come down to the last bit of the season, but I'll tell you this right now. I will never forgive the Padres if they sweep the Giants this weekend after all the BS they did, and then the Dodgers end up winning the division. That would be just an absolute disaster, and would just essentially give the Dodgers probably a World Series ticket again. But we'll get to that in a bit. For now, it is time to step into the winner's circle, where we're going to figure out for the final time this year, well, at least in season, we're going to find out what's going on with the Halos up in Anaheim. Bryanna, the floor is yours.
Or at least till the MVP voting.
Yes.
Because honestly, Ohtani should win that. Even if he's like went into a slump, he's still done more than Guerrero has. And we're going to talk about a little bit of history in just a bit, which is the part where I told you before. So since the last podcast, they went 1-1 against Houston, 1-2 against the Mariners, which I'm okay with at this point, but they lost to Texas. And losing to Texas meant that Texas has not gotten their 100th loss yet. And I'm hoping it happens against the Angels at this point. So in the 9-5 loss on Wednesday against Houston, it was a 12-inning game. Ohtani got walked 4 times. And he still went 0 for 2, but he got walked 4 times because nobody wants to pitch to him. There were a total of 9 pitchers used in that game. Their starter only went 4 innings, which is fine in the scheme of things, but no, I don't think anyone expected the game to go that long. In Thursday's 3-2 win, Ohtani got walked 3 more times and went 0 for 1. And he did score the go-ahead run on a Walsh sacrifice fly. On Friday, starting their series with Seattle, they lost 6-5. Ohtani went 0 for 1 with 4 more walks. So he matched the record by drawing 11 walks in just 3 games. Stassi's home run in the 4th was to get Los Angeles on the board. And then Rengifo tied it in the 6th with a sac fly, but unfortunately it just wasn't enough. Saturday's 14-1 win over Seattle, Ohtani went 2 for 3 with 2 triples and 2 walks. So again, there's the more walks, but he became the 2nd player with 45 home runs, 20 steals, and 6 triples in 1 season. The only other person to do that was in 1955, and it was Mr. Willie Mays. So I'm going to let you say whatever you want to say right now about this before I continue, because I have a feeling you have something to say.
Anytime you can be in the same breath as Willie Mays being the only player to do something, take a bow. And now going back to the walks thing, I think this is more of a situation of, where's the protection going to come from? Obviously, next year you're going to want Trout back healthy. And I think, if you put Ohtani in the 2-hole, Trout in the 3-hole, you're not going to see 11 walks over 3 days. But that's the situation right now. The Padres dealt with it back when they had Adrian Gonzalez. He was the only player on that team that really struck fear into the pitchers, excuse me. And Walsh has had a great year. There's other guys, but there's not the Trout. There's not the one guy that strikes fear into you. Well, there is. but there's not another guy who strikes fear into you that you can kind of have them in as protection. But for Ohtani, I mean, at this point, if you really honestly believe Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is a MVP, I need you to go back in to Webster's dictionary, and I got 3 words for you to look up: most, valuable, and player. Look all 3 of those words up individually, and if you still come back to me and tell me that Shohei Ohtani or that Vladimir Guerrero is the MVP, then we're going to put you back in elementary school, Billy Mouse.
I have 3 more words.
Huh.
Two-way player.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing. You can talk to me all about Vladimir Guerrero's numbers, and what I will throw right back at you are Shohei Ohtani's pitching numbers. Nobody can compete,
which I will get to, by the way.
Yeah. I mean,
he did pitch one more time.
He's going to be a top 15, top 10 in the Cy Young voting, folks. Vladimir Guerrero will not. So it's not, and I hate this argument too, because I think Vladimir Guerrero has had one of the best years, especially for his age, maybe the best year for a 21-year-old ever. And he's not going to get a single vote. Well, I don't believe he should get a single vote for MVP, at least first place vote. It's unfortunate for Vlad Jr. I think it's unfortunate for pretty much everybody in the American League who wants to win MVP, because unless you're going to get on that bump, and unless Shohei Ohtani is hurt, which hopefully that is not ever the case, you're not going to win MVP. Even Trout. I love Mike Trout. We love Mike Trout. There's nothing Mike Trout can do that will take this MVP away from Ohtani in the future if Ohtani continues to pitch 150 innings with an ERA about 3.5 or lower and gets 10 pitching wins. I mean, that's it. There's nothing more that you can do. So once again, fantastic year from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. But once again, if people are really debating whether or not Vlad Jr. or Shohei Ohtani is MVP, I don't know what to say to you. But the fact that he has become, now essentially we've had the Babe Ruth comparisons, right? First player since Babe Ruth to do a lot of these things. Now it's the only player besides Willie Mays to have ever done this. We're witnessing history, and once again, it's another moment for me to kind of, as the host, and kind of shake everyone and make sure everyone is appreciating exactly what we are witnessing. Because when it's over, when it's done, whenever that is, hopefully a long ways from now, I don't think we're ever going to see anything like this, and we will literally be the ones who saw it. We'll be the ones explaining what it was like to see the modern day Babe Ruth. But Bryanna, back to you.
But I will get to Ohtani's pitching in a minute, because he did pitch the next game. But continuing with that 14-1 win, Rengifo had the only home run of the game for the Angels. But they had a total of 14 hits. But again, only one home run gave you those 14 runs. So going into Sunday, they lost 5-1. Ohtani went 1 for 3, but he pitched 7 innings, gave up 5 hits, 1 earned run, and 10 strikeouts. The only run for the Angels was on a Suzuki home run in the first. But I'm going to go over some Ohtani pitching stats for a second. He has pitched and started 23 games. He's gone 9-2. He has a WAR of 4.1, an ERA of 3.18, which is lower than his 2018 ERA. He has a WHIP of 109. He's pitched 130.1 innings, has 156 strikeouts, only 44 walks, gave up 98 hits, 48 runs, and only 46 of those were earned. So I'm going to just give you a second.
I mean, that's now in terms of the innings pitched, if he was solely a starter, and obviously not a two-way player, he probably wouldn't really be in the Cy Young vote, just because it's a small amount, at least in the upper echelon of those. But I mean, once again, you look at those numbers and you look at and you go, wow, that is an all-star pitcher. That is an ace pitcher. And then you flip it and go, oh, by the way, he's done something at the plate that hasn't been done since Willie Mays. I mean, it's hard once again to put into words to what we are witnessing. History. And I feel like at some point, if this continues for 2 or 3 years, it's almost going to like, we're going to take it for granted, right? Like it's, oh, well, Ohtani had an ERA of 3.7 this year and only hit 35 home runs. Okay, still, I mean, that is an incredible year. Shohei Ohtani is right now the greatest player to have ever played baseball. And yes, I am including Babe Ruth in that. I never saw Babe Ruth, but the pictures I do see of Babe Ruth, let's just say he doesn't he looks more like an offensive lineman than a ball player, and that's fine. Not discounting any offensive linemen out there. Don't send the hate mail my way. But this is a chiseled athlete that is doing it on both sides of the play or both sides of the ball. My question now is, how long will it continue? Do the Angels err on the side of caution, or do they just keep pushing down and going? And I hate to say it, but they don't really have a choice right now, unless they're going to sign up every single starting pitcher in the free agent market. Shohei Ohtani is the ace of this team, and it's not close. He's also one of the best hitters. I still have Trout up there when he returns, but I just want to make sure this is another 10-minute rant for Brandon to remind everyone to acknowledge and appreciate what we're seeing from Shohei Ohtani.
But if you think about it, in 2018, he only pitched 51 2/3 of an inning. And you look
was that when he was injured? Did he get injured during that? Was that his Tommy John year?
He did not play in 2019. Or okay. He did not pitch in 2019.
Gotcha.
But as we're talking about Ohtani, ESPN comes out with, Ohtani has changed the game. His on-field impact is obvious, but it's everything else he does that's redefining what's possible in baseball. Like, no duh.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even compare it to anything. It's literally like Tom Brady going out and playing linebacker at a very high level. I mean, it's mind-boggling. It's hard to put into a comparison in other sports or anything like that. And then we'll throw the cherry on top of it, of the fact that this is an international superstar. You think he's big here? Go to Japan. I mean, there are people waiting up at 2 a.m, 8 a.m, whatever the time frame is, to watch every single pitch, to watch every single at bat from Shohei Ohtani. This is a global superstar. It's something that he is going to not only change, as you said, or as ESPN said, change the way baseball is played, but he is going to change the way baseball is viewed. He is going to be someone up there with, a Barry Bonds, someone that brings eyes to the game just because you want to see what he will do next. What a fantastic season he had, and hopefully to continue on set records, because believe me, folks, if they continue to set records, we're going to talk about on this podcast, and I will not let you take this guy for granted. I refuse. So,
and then going into the final game of the week, which was yesterday, their 5-2 loss against Texas, and me and my eye roll. Stassi hit a 2-run home run in the second. Those were their only runs of the game. And up next, they have to finish their series with Texas today and Thursday, and then they will finish the season off with Seattle. Look, I'd rather them just lose the entire season to Seattle, just so Seattle can make it in. It's how you feel, the Giants and the Dodgers, and how your team is the one that can spoil. I need the Angels to just lose. Unless Ohtani is pitching, which he might one more time, I need them to lose. Because right now I'm thinking that Seattle may be the only ones that could beat Houston.
Yeah.
But that's it for my report. Al, it's on to yours.
Yeah. Well, I think you started it off perfect. It's a perfect segue, because obviously this past weekend, the Padres were officially eliminated from playoff contention by the Atlanta Braves in really one of the more Padre ways to be eliminated. Saturday night, Manny Machado hits a huge grand slam, puts the Padres up 7-3. Before you know it, it's 7-7. Padres go up 8-7. Before you know it, Mark Melancon blows another save. It's 8-8. We go to extras, and you know how this ends. The Braves win 10-8. The Padres officially eliminated. I mean, look, if they win that game, it's not like it changes anything. They were just going to be eliminated the next day. But for the Padres, they are 1-9 in their last 10. They are actually, for the first time all season, under 500. They were 10-10 and then 78-78. Every other points of this year, they were above 500 as we speak to you today. They are 78-79 for a team that was projected to win between 94 and 98 games. They have a very good shot of not even finishing above 500. And it's probably not going to be close. I expect the Padres to lose out in this bit of it. They got 2 more against the Dodgers, Wednesday and Thursday. And they have the weekend series, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, finishing up the year at San Francisco. Bryanna, I agree with you with how you felt with the Angels losing to Seattle. Same thing with the Padres falling over. Get out of the way. Let the Giants have it. I even go back to last year. Once again, it's like the 15th time I brought it up, and I'm not going to say I'm not going to bring it up again. But anyways, I firmly believe the last game of the season, the Padres should have thrown the game and allowed the Giants to win so that they could have faced the Dodgers in that best of 3. I think they would have given a better fight than the Brewers would have. But in this situation, if you're a Padre fan, you have to be somewhat pulling for the Giants to win the division and go straight into that division series, as opposed to having to play the Cardinals in that 1-game playoff. The Cardinals are a very, very scary team. Looking at this team overall, what's next? Well, most people believe these final 5 games will be the last of Jayce Tingler's Padre managerial career. And I say good riddance to that. Tingler has lost the clubhouse well into the season. He's also had very questionable managerial skills. He doesn't really know when to stick up for his players, doesn't really know how to build up a lineup, doesn't really even know how to keep a lineup together. This team has not had the same lineup in terms of, they've had the same people in the lineup plenty of times in back-to-back days, but they've never had it literally in the same order since really, June, July, back when this team was at least somewhat winning. What does that tell you? Well, Jayce, the Tingler will be unemployed, hopefully, by this time next week. And as I told you, I believe it was either last week or the week before, if the Padres retain Jayce Tingler, there will be no Padre report next year on this podcast, because I will not be following the Padres. I will just be a baseball fan. I'll always love the Padres, but as long as Jayce Tingler is a manager of this team, I'm not going to watch. And I'm not going to cheer for a team that is destined to fail, that is setting themselves up to fail. It's been too long for myself as a Padre fan to see this team waste opportunity, and now have a team that can compete and continue to allow a manager like Jayce Tingler to take it really down. Because this team, if it ever wins, it will be in spite of Jayce Tingler, not because of Jayce Tingler. But for Fernando Tatis, the only real question has been, will he win MVP? And we pretty much have an answer to that. It is a rather emphatic no. Bryce Harper expected to win the MVP. He is the heavy betting favorite now. And for Tatis, back to the drawing board. There was a big hubbub about, of course, him being a little frustrated and all that. I have no problem with that. He's 21 years old. He's not expected to be the leader of this team. Manny Machado, Eric Hosmer is. For Fernando Tatis, it's about going into this offseason, hopefully get the shoulder surgery, Fernando. Get yourself ready for next year. He has said he doesn't want to get the surgery. I feel like this is going to be a storyline going into next year as well. Now, the other big question mark right now is, will AJ Preller survive the eventual firing of Jayce Tingler? I'm really couldn't care less anymore. I feel like he is probably going to be fired as well, because I don't think he has the cojones to actually fire Tingler, who is his best friend. And if that's the case, you got to get rid of both of them. Let's start fresh. But starting fresh, obviously, for the Padres is key, as they will head into this final 5 games and look ahead to the offseason, an offseason where there will be plenty of question marks. More than likely, plenty of trades. Eric Hosmer, if someone wants to give me a bag of donuts, you know what? I don't even need the donuts. Just give me the bag. You can have Eric Hosmer. Adam Frazier, arguably the worst trade in Padre history, and that's saying something. For me, this is going to be probably an unpopular opinion, but if someone wants to come take you Darvish's contract, feel free. Once again, I'll take the bag. I don't even need the donuts. This is a team right now that has way too many overpaid, underperforming players, and they have to fix that. But that's all I got for the Padre report. Told you the kids would be able to listen. So moving on, now it is time for the 3 up, 3 down, and this is probably the most pivotal time to be up on at least on the upside of the up, and maybe the down. But a lot of these teams on the down have pretty much been eliminated for a little bit, or at least expected to be. But I had the ups this week, and I had a very easy choice for the first up. Seems like for the 3rd or 4th week in a row, it is the St. Louis Cardinals. Look, they've won 17 in a row. They are essentially getting very close to being retired from the up portion of this because they just don't lose. They've clinched a wild card spot, and they are arguably the most dangerous team right now left in the playoff picture. The Dodgers will have probably a very tough game in that 1-game playoff against them. But Bryanna, what are your thoughts? St. Louis Cardinals, are they going to lose any game before the end of the year?
Maybe. And if they do, it's going to be in the next 2 games against the Brewers. I don't think that they're going to lose to the Cubs. But I mean, kudos. I don't think either of us thought that they were going to go this long.
No.
When we were talking about them last week.
I mean, 17 straight games. That is really difficult to do in baseball. In Major League Baseball, really difficult to do, especially in the middle of a pennant race. I mean, I know the Central isn't stacked or anything, but I mean, they've taken care of business. Hats off to the Cardinals. Now we all get behind you and hope that you can knock off the Dodgers. Hopefully that's who you play. But what is our first up of the week, Bryanna? Or I'm sorry, excuse me, first down of the week.
Well, just like how yours were easy, so are mine. First one's going to be Cleveland. Look, last week they were still in the playoff picture. This week, they have been officially eliminated from the playoff picture. They are 12 and a half games back of the White Sox. I mean, we knew that the White Sox were going to win this division. It was just a matter of, could the Indians make the wild card? And the answer came out to no. If they did not go 4 of 6 in their last 10, then maybe they still would have had a chance. But if you do that, there's no way.
The final ride for the Indians, literally and figuratively. Of course, the Guardians will be here.
It's not going to be easy.
No,
it's not going to be easy.
It is not going to be easy next year. But yeah, I
just like the Washington football team.
Yeah, it definitely took us. I still struggle with it. But for Cleveland, as frustrating, I'm sure, as the year was for the fans, I thought maybe they played pretty much what we expected, maybe even a little better, at least in my opinion, after trading Lindor. Bieber essentially being out for a large majority of the season. For Cleveland, obviously, it's unfortunate they didn't make the playoffs. But I don't think either of us expected them to even be in this kind of conversation, especially the AL Central. I mean, look, the Twins are the Twins. They really, really underperformed this year. Are they still in last place?
I don't know, but I was right on who was going to win the division, and you were not.
I was very wrong.
Very wrong.
I did get the NL Central, though, correct. I will pat myself on the back on that one. Minnesota. Still 2 games in that cellar. So,
I thought I said Brewers too.
It's possible.
I knew it wasn't going to be the Cubs.
Yeah.
The Cubs I knew were going to finish where they were.
Yeah.
It was just that one little surge that I don't think anyone was expecting. But with the Twins, it was as soon as they got hit with COVID was when it started going downhill. Like, there was nothing they could have done. They tried their best. Just no.
Yep. It happens, unfortunately, and they move on to next year. They'll hope that they can get themselves the ship righted next year. The second up of the week, another really low-hanging fruit. We've already talked about this team. It's the Seattle Mariners. They've won 3 in a row. They've won 9 of their last 10. It's a team that's 88-70. As I said, only a half game back of the Boston Red Sox for that final wild card spot. Huge shout out to our listener, Tim Chad, who I'll be honest. He said the Mariners were going to be good this year. I was a little skeptical. Once again, there's another one. He's right. I'm wrong. I'll own it. But the Mariners, if they can win out, they have a really, really good shot of making the playoffs, and they're a very dangerous team to deal with. They're playing very, very good ball. Bryanna, what are your thoughts on a team that, if you had it your way, they would make the playoffs at the expense of your Angels?
Well, to be fair, at the beginning of the season, I thought the Angels were going to be second, so it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I was right about who was going to win. I thought Oakland was going to be third and Seattle was going to be fourth. Hey, I might be right about Oakland. But look, this is a team that's been back and forth the last few weeks with the next team on our down list. And again, a fire was lit under them in the offseason. And they are doing something that nobody expected except for maybe Tim Chad. So, I mean, kudos to the Mariners. I would love to see them knock off Houston.
Yeah, they are really America's team, honestly, and not in the way the Cowboys are America's team. But this is that team that you can't root against them. Well, I mean, you could if you're playing them, but it's really hard if you're a neutral to root against the Mariners. They're kind of
my team is playing them, and I'm rooting for them.
I'm more thinking down the road in the playoffs, but yeah, I understand what you're saying there. But for the Mariners, they're kind of that little engine that could, especially the offseason they have, the drama, all that BS. And the fact that, look, I thought two big pieces of this team are going to be Kyle Lewis and Jared Kelenic, and neither of them have really kind of been that big portion of this team. It hasn't mattered. Congratulations to the Mariners. Really, no matter what happens over this last few weeks, I really do believe Scott Servais is the manager of the year. And I really don't think it's that close. But moving on to our second down, you kind of already alluded to him. Bryanna, who you got?
The second down is going to be the Oakland A's. I mean, look, they're in third. They're 3 games back of Seattle. I don't think that they're going to make it, just like ESPN gave them such a big goose egg to make the playoff picture. They are 4-6 in their last 10. If it was switched around, then maybe Seattle and Oakland would be switched on this list.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with Oakland being third, to be honest.
Yeah, they are. They're pretty much on that edge. They will probably be eliminated before this podcast even goes live, to be honest. The A's, it's been a tough year for them. They had a good run. I think they started they started really slow, and then got rolling. And like you said, they were kind of fighting it out with the Astros, the top spot for a bit, and then all of a sudden the Mariners just stayed there. They stayed close. And eventually overtook them. The A's, long way to go. This is still a really good team. They still have a really good manager in Bob Melvin. I don't think this is the end for the A's. They just need to get a little bit more production out of that lineup. That's always kind of been the issue post, early 90s A's. They're not a big mashing team, and they kind of rely a little bit too much on starting pitching. Which is fine if you make the playoffs, but not if you're in this situation where you're probably not going to make the playoffs. So our final up of the week is a begrudging up, but we have to put them on there. No, it's not the Dodgers. That would have been another begrudging up, but it is, once again, the New York Yankees, who continue to just it seems like they're either on the upside of this list or the downside of the list. They're never not on this list, but they have won 7 in a row. And are 8-2 in their last 10. Obviously, the Yankees right now, very close to clinching. They have a 2-game lead on Boston, 2.5 on Seattle, 3 on Toronto, and 5.5 on Oakland. So they do seem, unless they pretty much lose out, the Yankees are going to probably host that wild card game. Bryanna, what are your thoughts on the damn Yankees?
I got nothing because I really don't want to see them in the playoffs.
Yeah. Definitely hoping for them losing out, but I definitely wouldn't bet on it. Unfortunately, we'll probably see the Bronx host a wild card game, but we'll see how that goes. As much as I would love to see the Red Sox Yankees in a 1-game playoff, just because it's all the rivalry, I would love to see Seattle knock off the vaunted Yankees. The little guy take on, David versus Goliath, if you will. But Bryanna, our final down of the season, Who you got?
It's another team that last week was still in contention. And we said that they had to do something major in order to make it into playoffs. And they are not out of contention. It is the other team from New York, the Mets. Look, they are 3-7 in their last 10. We said the only way they probably could have made the playoffs was if like DeGrom and Syndergaard pitched the rest of the season. That was pretty much how they were going to make it. So we saw that this was going to happen. I just now wish that the other team from New York would just go down
as well. Yeah.
Because again, we thought that they were going to because of all the injuries they've had in the past. How have they stayed healthy? Whereas the White Sox, how have they had so many injuries and still win by 12 and a half games?
I hate to say it. I mean, it's still a great accomplishment for the White Sox, but I think a lot of it was with that division, especially what Minnesota did or didn't do, I should say. But for the Mets, they set an MLB record for leading a division for the most games throughout the year and then finishing with a losing record. Congratulations, Mets fans. Here's another piece of history for you. I'm sure they absolutely love that stat. I guess somewhat positive news, Syndergaard did return. I believe it was either Monday or Tuesday, pitched well. I've kind of wondered why they even brought him back, but hey, get him some time in there. I think DeGrom will also pitch this week as well. So looking ahead, there are some positive points. Now, their big question of, is Javi Baez going to stick around in New York? But for the Mets, it's been a year of kind of this is what we expect out of the Mets, right? They fall apart late. This is kind of the East Coast version of the Padres. Laugh at them. And then if you're a fan of them, you have to laugh so you don't cry about it. As you said, they're 3-7 in their last 10. They've actually won 2 in a row. But that kind of just goes to tell you how bad they were even before that to win 2 in a row, but still be 3-7 in your last 10. For the Mets, a long off season awaits, a lot of question marks. I think one of their biggest maybe goals is to hire a general manager that maybe will just be fired for baseball related issues. Yeah, not so much DUIs or sexual harassment. I mean, for the Mets, they need to get someone in that front office who's only going to get fired because of what he does in terms of professionally, not off the field stuff. So a long, tumultuous offseason upcoming for the Mets. But you know what? The people in New York would not have it any other way. But that is all we have for you on what is the final regular season edition of the Changeup. Obviously, we will be back with you next week to get you ready for those wild card games and the division series. Looking ahead, it's going to be a pretty crazy fight to the finish here. And then obviously when the playoffs get rolling, we're going to have to whittle it down to see who will eventually bring home the trophy. But Bryanna, what are your final thoughts for the 50th episode of the Changeup?
I thought you would have mentioned what happened at Petco Park.
Yeah, look, I'm sure most people have seen, or at least maybe even heard, there was unfortunately a woman and a 2-year-old who fell from the 3rd story. There's a lot of things out there in the news about why it happened, who saw what, whether it was real or not. For myself, I'm a baseball fan. I'm not too aware of kind of the other stuff, and I'm not minimizing the loss of the child and the woman. I'm not at all. I don't want anyone to think that. But for me, I'm one of those people that unless I really know the full story or feel confident in what I'm talking about, I'm not really going to bring it up. The only thing I can say is, thoughts and prayers to everyone affected by that. I did think it was kind of crazy. One of my buddies was at the game, and you had sent me the screenshot, and I was working all day, and
I was just getting back to my apartment.
And you sent me the article about that. And I texted my buddy who was at the game, and I asked him, did this really, and I'm not saying that, I wasn't, but I was just, verifying like, oh my gosh, this really happened. He had no idea. And now I don't expect Petco Park to, make an announcement. Hey, this is what happened today. But, if someone died, I feel like maybe an investigation needs to happen, and maybe you can't play a game in that situation. Now, once again, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because I don't know enough. And once again, this is going to sound really messed up. It's not that I don't care to know. It's that, you know what, whatever happened, happened. And everything that comes out after doesn't change the fact that there's a young child and a woman who lost their life just going to a baseball game. I'll leave that for some of the others to talk about, to, to be, wonder about what happened, or even have theories as to what happened. For myself, once again, just sending thoughts and prayers, because it's very hard for me to imagine being a family member of those people and saying, oh, so-and-so, and they're going to a baseball game. You don't expect for them not to come home. So it's difficult to kind of think about. And once again, me not bringing it up wasn't insensitivity or anything like that. It's just a situation of, I don't really know. I'm not nearly smart enough to know about kind of what's going on. All I can really do, thoughts and prayers to the family. And for Petco, I don't know what the answer is. But I really felt like when that happened, not playing a baseball game. I don't know. That's just me. Once again, I don't know the specifics, so I'm kind of just talking without really knowing, which I don't like to do, but that's just my thought on the thing. But yeah, it's a very, very unfortunate situation that really, I think, brings things into perspective, right? Everyone, all Padre fans are really sad about the Padres being eliminated. Well, hey, folks, look, people lost their lives. It could be a lot worse. So, but any final thoughts from you there, Bryanna?
Angels, just let the Mariners win, please. Just let them make the playoff.
And I will piggyback on that. Padres roll over and die this weekend. Like you have all season, or at least the last 2 months. Just keep doing that. Maybe take a game from the Dodgers. That would be great. But don't do anything stupid and let the Dodgers win this division because you all of a sudden decide to play baseball the last weekend of the season. Please, please, please. Jace Tingler, it's not going to save your job, I promise, or at least I hope. But anyways, with that, thank you all so much for listening to the 50th episode of the Changeup, presented by the First Off the Bench podcast network. Everyone comes off the bench, but we are first. It is time for you all to go wash your hands and stop hating, everybody. We will talk to you all next week. We break down the playoff picture. Can't wait. Take care.